Hello guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. On today's tutorial, we'll be recreating this baby blue ruffled gown. I made mine with a little bit of a twist. I made it an off-shoulder gown with sleeves and I padded the bust. So if this is something you're interested in, stay tuned and don't forget to like, share and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Also press the notification button so that each time I post a new video, you'll be the first to watch it. So the first thing I did was to draft the upper part of my gown on a pattern paper. So what I did first was to roll my starting line over there, and I measured my shoulder to my chest line. And I told you in our last tutorial that to get your shoulder to chest line, all you need to do is divide your bust circumference by 6 and then plus 1,5, and your shoulder slope is 1 inch, so you add that 1 inch to the total chest line, right? After marking my chest line, I went ahead to mark my bust point, my under bust, my waistline, and then my hip line. And then what I did was go to the other part of my pattern paper, and then I did the same thing I did on the right side of my pattern paper. So I repeat again, to get your chest line, you divide your bust circumference by 6 and then you add 1.5 and then an addition of 1 inch right to the chest line so that you get your shoulder slope. So after measuring all that, I went ahead to rule both my lines, my chest line, I ruled my chest line, I ruled my bust point and then my under bust. And then I measured my neck width and my neck depth, and then take note that I folded my pattern paper into two because it's an asymmetric gown, right? You can see on the half length over there. Okay, then I marked my shoulder measurement divided by 2 and then I came down by that 1 inch that I told you about. After that, I went ahead to rule my line just like you can see over there. And after ruling my line, what I went ahead to do was to measure my shoulder measurement on my chest line just like you can see. And then after measuring the shoulder measurement, I went ahead to connect both points from my shoulder slope to the chest line. After that, I divided that line into two equal parts, right? The armhole, that would be my armhole. I divided it into two equal parts and then I went to my bust point and marked my nipple to nipple divided by 2, right? My nipple to nipple is 8 inches. I divided by 2 and it gave me 4 inches, right? So I went ahead to mark that on all parts, right? From my bust, my waist, my hip and my full length, and then I ruled my line. I connected both lines from the full length to my bust point just like you can see on the video. So after that, I went straight to my waistline, right? What I did was to mark my waist. What I did over there was to mark 0.5 inch on both sides of my waist. After marking the 0.5 inch, I came down from my waistline. I came down by 6 inches, just like you can see over there. And then I went ahead to connect the dot to that 6-inch point I measured, to the 6 inches point I measured. And then after that, I came to my bust point and then I came down by 1.5 inch, right? And then I connected the dot lines as well. The reason why I came down by 1.5 inch on my bust point is to avoid any curves on my bust line because we are not really that curvy. Then after that, I went down to my under bust tightening, right? I went ahead to tighten my bust on both sides by 0.5 inch. Depends on you. You can go by 1 inch depending on if the bust of the person is too big or if it's too small. You can tighten by 0.5 inch. After that, I went ahead to connect both points from the under bust tightening. I connected to my waistline. The 0.75 I marked on the under bust, I connected it and then I went ahead to take my curvy ruler and I curved it to the 1.5 inch I came down by. After my under bust tightening, I went ahead to connect the neckline, the neck width to the neck depth. Guys, take note that we don't really need the neck width and the neck depth over there. We're just doing that for a guide, right? To guide us in our drafting. So after connecting that, what I went ahead to do now was to mark how deep I wanted my my cleavage to be, right? It can be anything. For me, I came down by 5.5 inches. You can come down by 6 inch, 7 inch if you want your cleavage to show. After measuring my cleave length, I went ahead to rule the line, and then I went ahead to divide that part you can see over there. I divided it by 2, that's my shoulder point, and then I ruled my line, the bust point line. I connected both lines together. And then after that, what I went ahead to do is to tighten my overbust. So I did a 75% tightening on the overbust, 0.75 inch on both sides, right? That's called a 75% overbust tightening. So after doing that, I went ahead to connect both my lines, just like you can see over there. Take note that I used the straight part of my ruler, not the curvy part of my ruler. And then after connecting both points, I went ahead to divide my bust point divided by 4 over there to get the guide for my armhole line. After dividing that, I got 9 inches, and then I went ahead to mark that. And then after that, I went to the midpoint I had marked before, and then I came in by 0.5 inch, and I connected the line, a straight line, with my ruler. And then I took the curvy part and I connected to the bust point, to the chest line, just like you can see over there. Just watch what I'm doing carefully and you'll understand. If you don't understand my explanation, watch the video carefully and then you'll understand what I did over there. So after connecting that point, I went ahead to make the line straight, and then after that, I wanted to replace the overbust tightening that I had taken over there. And there are 2 ways to do that. I'll tell you only what I did over there. So what you do is you measure your strap to strap, right, on your bra. Measure your strap to strap measurement, and then you measure that where you have your cleave length, right, excluding the dot point over there, which means it's minus 1.5 inch, right? After measuring that, I went ahead to just curve. Guys, if you don't understand, just watch the video repeatedly, and then, or if there's anything you don't understand, just write in the comment section, and then I'll make a proper tutorial on your strap to strap and give you a proper measurement on that, right? So after that, I went ahead to my waistline. I marked my waist circumference divided by 4, and then I added the dot I had taken over there. Went to my hip measurement, divided my hip divided by 4, and then I went to my full length. I marked the same measurement I had marked on my hip line. So after that, what I did was to go ahead and connect the points together, just like you can see. You watch what I do and then you do the same thing that you see me doing over there. After connecting those points over there, I went ahead, just to avoid any necessary gapings, I went ahead to mark 0.25, but it's optional, right? Mark 0.25 at the full length, and then I connected it to my dart legs over there on the 6 inches that leg. So right here, we're almost done with our drafting, right? I just went ahead to replace that on my hip line, on my full length. Then after replacing that, I went ahead to add everything together, just like you can see. I went ahead to connect the points, just like you can see over there. So guys, if you've watched the video up to this point, what are you waiting for? Please subscribe to my YouTube channel so that each time I post a new video, you get notified and you'll be the first to watch all my tutorials. So after doing all that, I went ahead to mark the points that are not needed anymore. Then I went to my bust point. Remember, I told you in our last tutorial that the front and the back half length are not the same, right? So what I did over there was to mark the difference between my front and my back half length, and mine is 1.5 inch. After marking that, I went ahead to connect, just like you can see. And take note that my pattern paper is 2. It's on a fold, right? It's on a fold, so because it's asymmetric. So what I did after that was just to go ahead and then mark that, take my tracing wheel and then traced every part that is needed. After tracing all those parts, I went ahead to connect my lines, just like you can see over there. I went ahead to trace more parts that are needed, just like you can see. Guys, make sure you transfer your pattern so that when you're cutting the asymmetric part, it won't give you any problems, right? So after that, I went ahead to close my under the bust dart. So what you do in order to close the bust dart is to just cut through your bust point, just like you see me doing over there. After cutting through my bust point, I went ahead to cut the shoulder dart as well, so that I am able to like close the bust dart. So I did what you can see over there. Make sure you don't cut through your bust point, right? And somewhere there, right? So I went ahead to open up my pattern paper, just like you can see. And then if you notice, you see that there is a shortage on my bust point right there, right? So after that, I took my tape. I don't know what this is called in your area, but I call it a tape, right? I took the tape and then I went ahead to place that on my bust point, just like you see over there, just to cover that part, right? And then this is necessary, guys, because it gives a shape, right? It gives a kind of beautiful shape to your bust point, right? Like it curves the shape, because there's a difference between the front half length, just like I told you earlier, and the back half length. So I went ahead to do the same thing I did on the other part of my pattern paper. After that, I went ahead to fold back my pattern, just like you can see over there, right? So after folding my pattern, what I did over here was that I went ahead to come down by how long I want the other part to be, right? The shorter part of the gown, right? So I went ahead to measure how long I want it to be, and I measured 5 inches at first, but later I went ahead to reduce that to 4 inches. Just watch what I'm doing over there. I measured 5 inches long, right? But then I discovered it was very long, so I went ahead to reduce that to 4 inches, right? So after measuring that, I measured from my waistline, right, to that part. I measured 5 inches. So after measuring the 5 inches, I went ahead to use my tracing wheel again to trace that part, just like you can see. And then after using my tracing wheel, I went ahead to connect it on the other part. So after that, I folded the part, right, and then after folding it, I opened the pattern back, because it was time for me to draw the asymmetric hem, right? But before I drew the asymmetric hem, I just went ahead to connect the bust point, just like I told you. There is a shortage after closing the bust dart, right? So I was just making sure to mark that. So all you need to do over here is just do you, right? But just follow what I did over there. So I went ahead to mark from the point that I had told you is the shorter part of my gown. So I went ahead to mark that. Make sure it's not very straight, right? Don't use a straight ruler for that. You use your hand and just curve it the way you see me do over there, right? So after I started by curving it with my pencil, then after that I erased it and then I drafted it with my ruler again. Can you see over there, I went ahead to come up again by 1 inch, right? So it made it a total of 4 inches, right? So after connecting with my hand, I had what you can see over there, right, guys? Make sure it's not really that straight. So I used my hand to connect that, right? I was just making sure to curve it to get the curve that you can see on the gown, right? And then after that, I went ahead to cut the asymmetric point over there. Guys, what I forgot to do on this pattern, right? I didn't draw the dot line on the other part, on the longer part. So make sure you trace the dot on the other part, because you can see that the other part is shorter. And then after that, I went ahead to cut my fabric, just like you can see. I'm taking you on the process of cutting the fabric so that you can see what I did. So I traced that just like you can see over there. And then I went ahead to cut the front part, right? Just follow what I did over there while cutting your own parts of the fabric. Then after cutting all that, I had my front pattern ready, right? As you can see, my armhole is over there, and then you can see my center front, my side front for the other part. And then make sure you know your right and your left side so as not to get confused with the back part. So over there, I have the back parts right here. I marked all the points that are necessary, and then I marked my neck width, my neck depth, and then I marked my shoulder point, and then I did the same thing I did literally on the front line. The only difference between the front and the back part is that it doesn't have any bust point. And I marked my bust, my chest line divided by 4, divided my armhole into 2 right there, and then I marked everything together, and then I connected my line. For the back, you don't need to come in by ½ inch, right? And then I marked my nipple to nipple over there. After marking the nipple to nipple on my full length, I went ahead to connect the lines just like you can see. Then after that, I went to my waistline. I marked 0,5 on both sides, came down by 1 inch from my chest line. Then I connected both the lines, and then for the waist part, I came down by 5 inches. Then I marked my sleeve length, the length for my back, how deep I want my back to be. And then I wanted the back part to be a little bit curvy, right? Yeah, so that's what I was just doing over there. And then I curved that, and I went ahead to mark my waist divided by 4, replace the dart, my hip divided by 4, and then I connected the line to avoid any bulges on my back. I went ahead to connect 0,25 on both sides. It's not even up to 0,25, right guys? And then I connected the hip, the waist, and everything. I marked the same length I had marked on the front part for my waistline, right? From my waistline. After that, I went ahead to just trace like you can see me do over there. Then after tracing that, I had these, I connected that on the back part just like you can see over there. After connecting all my points, I had my pattern almost ready. Okay guys, so another thing you need to take note of is that you must know the left and the right side on your front pattern. Can you see what I was doing over there? I was just making sure that the left and the right sides, because my right side was the longer part and the left side was the shorter part for my front. So what I was doing there was making sure that they align with each other, right? So that's why you see me marking the left and the right side. If you don't understand what I'm doing, just make sure you watch the video over again, and then you understand what I'm doing. So after that, I went ahead to connect the points, right, the curve, just like you can see over there. And then after connecting the points, I went ahead to cut, right, the asymmetric part of my gown. And then after cutting, I went ahead to cut all the parts just like you can see over there. I went ahead to cut my dart lines, and then on each and every part for the front and the back part, you have 3 parts over there. There are 3 different patterns, unlike the usual patterns where you have only 2 patterns, but you have 3 for the front and 3 for the back. So I was just making sure here that all my patterns align with each other. Guys, make sure all your patterns align with each other to avoid any unnecessary complications while sewing your patterns, right? So to prevent the video from being too long, I went ahead to divide the video into 2 parts, right? So to watch the sewing tutorial of this video, make sure to go to my channel and watch the next part of the video. Thanks for watching this video up to this point. See you in my next video. Bye.